For years, I thought stylish women just knew how to put outfits together. Meanwhile, I was standing in front of a closet full of clothes, wondering why none of mine looked right. I had plenty of pieces. I had jeans, I had tops, Lord knows I had shoes. But somehow when I put everything together, my outfits never looked as polished as the women I saw on Pinterest, Instagram, or walking through a nice shopping district. I honestly thought some women were just born with an eye for fashion, and I simply just wasn't one of them. Not because I dressed badly. I've always felt like I looked nice and presentable, but there was a difference between looking nice and looking stylish. And for the longest time, I couldn't quite figure out what the difference was. I'd see women whose outfits looked effortless and polished, and I couldn't understand what they were doing differently. We might be wearing similar pieces, but somehow their outfits always felt more intentional. What I eventually learned is that there wasn't some secret fashion gene I was missing. There were actually principles behind why certain outfits worked. And once I started understanding those principles, everything began to make a lot more sense. So are you ready to learn what those secret principles are? So let's get into these principles. Learn what they are, how to apply them, and how they can help us develop the skills needed to create more stylish, intentional outfits. The first principle is balance. And looking back, this is probably one of the areas I struggle the most without even realizing it. I've always tended to wear more fitted clothing, fitted tops, fitted jeans, more fitted silhouettes in general. And there wasn't necessarily anything wrong with that. In fact, I think a lot of my outfits looked really nice. What I didn't understand at the time was that stylish outfits often rely on contrast and balance. When everything is fitted, the outfit can start to feel a little one-dimensional. Once I started understanding balance, I began experimenting with combinations like a fitted top and a wide leg pant, or a relaxed button down with a cleaner bottom silhouette. And suddenly, my outfit started feeling more modern, more intentional, and more interesting. I realized that style isn't always about adding more. Sometimes it's simply about creating balance. The second principle is proportion. And this one was a huge eye-opener for me, because for years, I didn't really think much about where tops ended, where my waistline sat, or how certain pieces affected my overall silhouette. I would often wear untucked tops, not because they looked bad, but because I didn't understand how much they were affecting my proportions. As I started learning more about style, I realized that where the top hits on the body can completely change how an outfit feels. The same goes for a belt or a jean rise, or whether a shirt is tucked, partially tucked, or left untucked. Little details that can dramatically change the balance of an outfit. And once I started paying attention to proportion, I found that my outfits started looking more polished without actually changing my wardrobe very much at all. I was simply learning how to work with my proportions instead of ignoring them. And if the proportions section really resonated with you, I actually have an entire video dedicated to understanding body proportions and how they affect your outfits, because that's a topic that goes much deeper than we can cover in today's video. So after you're done watching this one, be sure to check that one out as well. Now, the next principle was interesting because it wasn't something I thought about at all for most of my life. And that's the idea of having a focal point. For a long time, I didn't put much thought into accessories. I wasn't someone who wore a lot of jewelry. I didn't think much about belts. I didn't really think about handbags as part of an outfit. They were just functional items. But what I eventually realized is that those finishing touches often help guide the eye through an outfit. They create interest. They create personality, and they can give an outfit a sense of completion. I also learned that not every piece needs to compete for attention. In fact, most great outfits have a focal point, something that quietly stands out. Maybe it's a beautiful bag. Maybe it's a statement necklace. Maybe it's a great pair of shoes. Or maybe it's the blouse itself. Once I understood that, I stopped trying to make every piece special and started focusing on creating a clearer visual story. And that made outfit building much easier. The next principle goes hand in hand with balance and proportion. And it's something I've been much more aware of over the last year or two, and that is structure. When I look back at older outfits, one thing I noticed is that I wasn't paying much attention to structure. I wasn't really thinking about silhouette or shape or the lines an outfit created. I wasn't wearing blazers. I wasn't thinking about tailoring. I wasn't looking for pieces that help create clean, intentional lines. But the more I learned about style, the more I realized that structure plays a huge role in how polished an outfit feels. Even something as simple as a structured handbag instead of a slouchy one can completely change the feel of an outfit. A blazer, a belt, a cleaner jean silhouette, a more intentional shoulder line. These details create shape and definition, and shape creates presence. It's one of those things that's difficult to notice until you start looking for it. Then suddenly you see it everywhere. And finally, we come to the last principle, intentionality. Now, this one is a little different for me because when I look back, I don't think intentionality was ever my biggest problem. I've always cared about how I looked. I've always tried to put outfits together thoughtfully. I've always wanted to look put together. The difference is that I didn't always know what I should be paying attention to. I was being intentional. I just didn't have the framework yet. Once I started understanding balance, proportion, focal points, and structure, I finally had something to be intentional about. Instead of guessing, I could make decisions. Instead of wondering why an outfit felt off, I could usually identify what wasn't working. And that's really what this entire journey has been for me. Not learning how to care more, but learning how to understand style better. Because style isn't about having a perfect wardrobe. It's not about buying more clothes. And it's definitely not about following every trend that comes along. It's about developing an eye for what works. And the good news is that an eye for style isn't something you're born with. It's something you can develop. And the more you understand these principles, the easier it becomes to create outfits that feel balanced, polished, and intentional. And honestly, I'm still learning too. But that's the fun part. So I'd love to know in the comments, which of these principles do you think you're strongest in? And which do you think you need to work on? Let me know below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to Wendy's Wardrobe Wisdom. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.